Well, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today we're revisiting the mouse. This is something I started a long time ago, and something I never finished. The whole revisit previous tank reviews. So, I decided that needs to change. Me and Phil made the executive decision that we need to start going back to some of our older reviews, because so much of the game has changed. It's kind of, in a way, it's impressive. In a way, it's kind of annoying, because it means a lot of things I said in the past don't hold true anymore. But the mouse. Now the mouse is when I reviewed this tank, I actually don't remember what battle rating it was. I think it came into the game as 8.0. It's currently 7.7, which is probably where it needs to be. I know there was some, some craziness where it was at 6.7. No. Sorry, but no. That's just not. This tank at 6.7 makes no sense. At 7.7 though, I think that's the appropriate battle rating. The problem when the mouse was introduced, it was just a block of armor. It was all flat armor, but heat rounds hadn't been introduced if I remember right. And armor and the APCR rounds were really the only reliable way to get into this tank, and even then it was debatable. This tank could really become just a fortress. And that's not to say that it's not a fortress. Still, you'll see in this replay that it's certainly at a range like this or medium range, you can position this tank pretty well. The big thing that's changed for the mouse since it was introduced was the introduction of heat ammo, like effective heat ammo, not like the kind you get early on in the game. This is the fin stabilized, very high muzzle velocity, very high penetration heat rounds, which basically renders big blocky tanks like this a little bit irrelevant. The game kind of shifted to become speed. You have things like the Leopard, and most of the top tier tanks are pretty quick. You'll see an example of this game. There's a Leopard player who had a really good game, and primarily, I want to say the reason the Leopard will on average do better than the mouse is just because the Leopard's so much faster, and it brings a very potent gun. Quick firing 105 millimeter gun with very effective penetration rounds. So, something the mouse has kind of always had is this 128 millimeter gun, which is very similar, if not the exact same, to the gun on the Yag Tiger. And I like this 128 millimeter gun. It's a good one. It's just some of the newer tanks that have been introduced, it doesn't stack up that well with its current ammunition. But there's always ways around it. A hull down T10 is always going to be a tough target. Now with proper APCR or heat ammo, you could probably get through the front of that tank. But the mouse doesn't have any of that, so you're kind of out of luck on that respect. But he's also having a lot of trouble with me. He's only shot me once, but he's not shooting me anymore, so he must see better targets. The big thing about the mouse that I think has changed, and this is one of the things that prompted this revisit, particularly on this tank, is I think that War Thunder has shifted to more of with the introduction of the Leopard and then the American tanks, and now some of the British tanks, it's shifted to we need about 105 millimeter gun. We need it to fire pretty quickly, and we need to be relatively quick. Being slow doesn't get the job done, and that's kind of what the mouse is. It's just really, really slow. In a game like this, where the Leopards were able to get forward and cause problems for the enemy and not let them advance on us, plays perfectly into the mouse's strengths. The mouse wants to basically find a really nice position, hang out, have you come to it, and kill you, and the mouse wants to kill you at range, and then advance to take the cap point after you're all dead. The Leopard allows the mouse to do that. When the mouse was first introduced, if I remember right, I think I said this is a great tank, but we're missing something here. We're missing that tank to go forward, because this tank will move forward, but through experience of playing it, it doesn't really, especially nowadays, it won't lead the charge, just because if it's out leading the charge, it can't use its armor as effectively as it needs to survive against some of these threats that it'll face. The Leopard is a tank that really helps the mouse fit into its mold. The Leopard can go forward and and kind of take the brunt. You know, you can look at it a couple ways. The main way I look at it is the mouse was always going to be the roadblock. You know, you have to get through me. I'm angled, and it's going to be really tough. But and I'm a big tank. It's going to take multiple shells. You're going to have to get through me, right? Previously, the problem the mouse ran into is that they would eventually just get through the mouse, and then life would be kind of problematic for everybody else. With the introduction of the Leopard, you have a tank that can dominate the flanks just as well as any other Russian or American tank. On that note, I still like the M60 a little better than the Leopard, but the Leopard is really good. It certainly can beat up T-54s. That's not a question. T-54's armor isn't what it used to be. Complete side note, the second I said that, I also got shot in the front by a T-54 in the game, but also something got in my eye, like in my contact. So I think that might be Stalin telling me I'm, a bastard for saying that. But regardless, it's true. The Leopard 1 can compete with the T-54. So with the proper Leopard play, there's not really a flank threat to the mouse, and now the mouse can deal with things to the front, which means that you can angle your armor and really give yourself a good chance of survival, and then bring the 128mm gun to bear. So, I think in that respect the mouse has gotten a lot better. But I think on the flip side, a lot of the tanks that it's going to run into, T-10, M60, you name it, all those tanks have heat shells. T-54s now have heat shells. So that can be a little bit troublesome when your whole deal is armor and they have shells that have excessive amounts of penetration. Granted, you can use tactics to deal with that, but it's still, previously it was, they needed to hit you right to penetrate. Well, now they need to hit you in sort of the right place at sort of this situation. So the margin of error got a lot slimmer. So I think the mouse, it got better with the introduction of Leopard, just by nature of having something at its tier, or plus or minus its, a couple, like a plus or minus a battle rating that can, it's actually plus or minus 0.3, but that competes against the competition and allows the mouse to do its thing better. But it also, has that whole thing where the armor isn't as effective as it used to be. All that being said, the armor has held up. Now, that T-54, the reason he was able to penetrate, I'm pretty sure he was just shooting me straight in the turret face. And you can still do that trick where you take out the secondary gun on the mouse has always been kind of useless. So I just ditched all the ammo. Good move? Probably. Now there's an M60 shooting me, which is great. And you can't really blame the gun for that shot. That's generally not going to penetrate an M60. I need to be either going for that cupola or trying to hit the lower plate. Excuse me. I've been a little sick recently. So, I'm going to go for the lower plate, because I think that's an easier target right here. Bam. Got him. But, life wouldn't be normal if, after getting a nice kill like that, you didn't see the ISU-152 that was next door, and then he promptly explodes you. something that the mouse has always dealt with. I remember when the mouse was first introduced, people were spamming the ISU 152 because they were like, whoa, this tank's actually effective against this thing because, oh man, no one else can really penetrate it, but we don't need to penetrate it. We just hit it in the face with HE and it blows up. It's like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. So don't worry, that still works. I think the ISU 152 will blow up most tanks still. It's one of those tanks that it's an interesting one because it can basically kill any tank in the game. But the platform itself is not very good. So the gun is fine, but the chassis it's on isn't. So, oh look, stuck. Bummer. Oh well, game's about to end. So that was the mouse revisited. I think it's plus and minus in the same spot because for all the reasons I said, the armor's, I've said it a few times now. I think the armor doesn't hold up like it used to, but it also has a companion on the flanks that protects it. So take that as you will. But anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Corny Swiss. I'll see you next time.